I ask our operator to give the IFLA president the floor, please.
Dear colleagues, my name is Christine McKenzie, IFLA's president, and I will be your chair for today's meeting. As the COVID-19 situation continues, it has made it difficult for us to come together in person. However, I am pleased that many are joining virtually today. Welcome to the IFLA General Assembly taking place in my home city, Melbourne, Australia. Regulations in the state of Victoria make it mandatory that I wear a mask while indoors in a public building with others. In spite of the restrictions in place, IFLA's statutes require that we hold a physical meeting for the General Assembly. And I am grateful to one of IFLA's institutional members, Caval, for providing a venue. As there are others in the room here with me, I will be masked during the meeting. I welcome those who are here in the room with us and those following virtually via Zoom or YouTube. This is a very important extraordinary General Assembly as we undertake the vote on the proposed amendments to IFLA's statutes. While you could not be here in person, we were committed to ensuring that your voice could be heard on these important changes. We urged you to make use of the possibilities for proxy voting, and I'm glad to say that many IFLA members did. On the 1st of February, we published the results of the advisory ballot of members undertaken in accordance with the statutes, wherein 95% of those responding indicated they would support the proposed revisions to the statutes. In this extraordinary situation, IFLA also took further actions in order to help you to participate as best as possible. We offered the opportunity to ask questions regarding the proposals and resolutions on the agenda of the IFLA 2021 Extraordinary General Assembly. I can inform you that no questions were received by the deadline on the 8th of February. And you are able to join us via Zoom or live streaming of the General Assembly. Let's begin this Extraordinary General Assembly, which I have the honour to officially open. With me for the meeting is the Secretary-General, Gerald Leitner, who will support me, and we are connected also with our parliamentarian, Martin Wade. We will be following the agenda as noted in the convening notice sent to members 3 months prior to the General Assembly on the 11th of November 2020. Item 2 on our agenda is the appointment of tellers. I ask the Secretary-General to provide more information.
Members, given the unusual situation and limited audience, there will be one teller. Jamie McCowan, who is the representative of IFLA member Caval, will count the votes of any members present and the votes of the proxy holders.
Thank you, Secretary-General. Item 3 is the establishment of a quorum. I ask the Secretary-General to provide more information.
At the beginning of the meeting, there were 140 national and international association members who have paid their fees for 2020 and are not in arrears. For a quorum, we need 50% of this number plus 1. Namely 71 members to be present or represented through the proxies. I'm pleased to announce that 97 associations are represented today. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you for the information. I now move to item 4, the adoption of the agenda.
The agenda for the General Assembly meeting was sent to all members in good standing in November 2020 as required by the statutes. In accordance with Article 9.6, The business of the meeting shall normally be limited to those items appearing on the agenda issued with the convening notice for the meeting. As per Article 9.6.1, additional items of an exceptional and urgent character may be added at the discretion of the President or other person who is acting as the chair of the meeting, with the consent of the majority of the members present or represented. Madam Chair, no such resolutions have been received for this meeting.
I then call for a mover and seconder for the adoption of the agenda. The motion as presented is moved by Jamie McCowan and seconded by Michael Orlick. I will now ask if the meeting adopts the agenda. We will do this via a formal vote. Please stay with us while the vote takes place. We have the result of the voting process. With 1,585 proxy votes in favour, and with those in the room approving the agenda is adopted. We now move to item 5, the minutes of the previous meeting held in The Hague, the 5th of November 2020. The draft minutes have been distributed to all members via emails containing directions to the General Assembly convening notice and papers available and distributed on the IFLA website. Are there any corrections? If not, I call for a mover and seconder that the minutes of the General Assembly meeting held in The Hague, 5th of November 2020 be approved. The motion as presented is moved by Jamie McCowan and seconded by Michael Orlick. We will approve the minutes via formal vote. Please stay with us while the vote takes place. We have a result of the voting process. The result is 1,575 votes in favour, no votes against, and 10 abstentions. The minutes of the previous meeting held in The Hague, the Netherlands, on the 5th of November 2020 are approved. We now move to item 6 on the agenda, my address on the matter for this extraordinary General Assembly. And so that you didn't see me with the mask, we did that just before. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, at the General Assembly held in The Hague on the 5th of November last year, I gave a detailed overview of the new structure, and I'm not going to repeat that today. But I would like to highlight the process we've undertaken to get to this point, and the work that has been done by the Governing Board, our parliamentarian Martin Wade, and the IFLA lawyers. I will also give some details about the development of the rules of procedure and the handbook. To take you through the process, we started work on the governance review at the first meeting of the current Governing Board in August 2019. Working groups were formed to review the Governing Board, the professional structure, and the strategic committees. The chairs of these working groups, the President, Professional Committee Chair, and the President-elect, formed a steering committee supported by the Secretary-General and advised by the IFLA parliamentarian and Luma Consulting. These working groups engaged with stakeholders and identified the key issues to be addressed. There was a survey of IFLA members in October that year, which identified key priorities. The Governing Board held a workshop in December 2019, and the need for a mechanism for stronger regional representation was recognised. The work groups continued to meet, and in June 2020, a draft proposal was published for consultation. A survey of members indicated broad agreement and also a number of areas where further work needed to be done. Changes were made to the proposal, reflecting this, and a series of virtual roundtables were held in August, which provided more valuable feedback. By October, the Governing Board had approved the draft of the new statutes and agreed on a framework for the governance documents. This framework has 3 levels. The highest level is the statutes, the second is the rules of procedure, and the third is the handbook. In line with the current statutes, an indicative ballot of members regarding the new IFLA statutes was launched on the 30th of October. At this time, there was also consultation with members, regional section standing committee members, and regional library organisations about future regional divisions. On the 5th of November, I gave a presentation of the overall plans to the IFLA General Assembly. We continued to consult regarding the regional divisions, and these details were finalised mid-January. The new rules of procedure were checked by IFLA's lawyers and were approved by the Governing Board on the 29th of January. And here we are today, ready to vote on the new statutes. The process has been intense, thorough, consultative, and rewarding. So now let's take a look at the major components of the new structure. The Governing Board will have 11 members, with the majority directly elected by members. The President-elect and Treasurer will be directly elected, as well as 5 elected members at large. 3 members will serve because of their positions: the chairs of the Professional Council, the Regional Council, and the Management of Library Associations section. The Governing Board will have 3 committees: the Professional Council, the Regional Council, and the Finance and Risk Committee. The Professional Council and the Regional Council are organisationally aligned as closely as possible. The Professional Council is made up of the chairs of professional divisions, and the basis of the professional structure remains professional divisions comprised of professional units. The composition of professional divisions will be flexible, and the structure can respond to the changing library environment. The Regional Council is made up of the chairs of regional divisions. There will be 6 regional divisions: Africa, Asia Oceania, Latin America and the Caribbean, Europe, North America, and the Middle East and North Africa. IFLA's global work will be supported by 4 advisory committees that will report to the Governing Board. These are freedom of access to information and freedom of expression, copyright and other legal matters, standards, and cultural heritage advisory committees. The changed statutes describe a new structure for the Federation that we wish to enter into force at the end of the current term of office for the Governing Board and all IFLA committees. Therefore, the Extraordinary General Assembly of the 12th of February is informed that because of the transitional period between the current and new statutes, and because the Governing Board wishes all current IFLA committees to remain in office for the remainder of the term for which they were appointed, the deed with the new IFLA statutes will be executed the day after the conclusion of the August 2021 General Assembly. This means that up to this date of execution of the notarial deed of amendment of the current statutes into the new statutes, that is, the day after the conclusion of the August General Assembly, the current statutes remain in effect. The new rules of procedure shall enter into force immediately subsequent to the entry into force of the new statutes. However, IFLA's lawyers have advised that all elections and appointments as described in the new statutes and rules of procedure should take place under the suspensive condition that the new IFLA statutes and rules will have entered into force. So the General Assembly in August 2021 will also take place under the current statutes, that is, with longer notice periods and no possibility for electronic voting. In conclusion, I would like to especially acknowledge my colleagues on the Governing Board who have spent a great deal of time on Zoom, often late at night or early in the morning, to ensure robust debate and thorough consideration of the important questions before us. I would also like to thank the members of the Steering Committee, Barbara Lisson and Vicky MacDonald, Secretary-General Gerald Leitner and the IFLA staff. I would like to give a special thank you to IFLA parliamentarian Martin Wade. His contribution to this process has been enormous, and we all owe him a huge debt of gratitude. We have been ably assisted in the project by Megan McNally from Luma Consulting, and not forgetting our lawyers too. And most of all, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed their ideas, comments and critiques to ensure that we have arrived at the best outcome we could, this new governance structure for IFLA. We have indeed worked together for IFLA and for the global library field.
Thank you, Madam President, for that clear explanation of the new governance structure and how we will go on. It has been an incredible journey with input from members and colleagues around the world. I know with the adoption of these statutes, we will deliver a more inclusive and participatory organization for our members. Many thanks.
Next on our agenda is item 7 concerning the amendment of the IFLA statutes and the resolutions. I invite the Secretary-General to present the resolution and rationale to amend the IFLA statutes.
Motion 7A reads, to amend the IFLA statutes in accordance with the draft deed dated 9th November 2020, drawn up by Pels, Rijken and Troglever Fortune NV in the Den Haag, the Netherlands. The Dutch draft IFLA statutes are at Annex 2, the unofficial English translation draft IFLA statutes at Annex 3. Rationale. Members, following the process outlined by our President in her address and in line with the current statutes, we have provided members with the necessary documentation to consider the changes to the statutes. Members were given the opportunity to ask questions on the resolutions and none were received.
Thank you for the explanation. I call for a mover and seconder for the motion. The motion as presented is moved by Jamie McCowan and seconded by Michael Orlick. Does any member present wish to speak to the motion? If not, we will now move to a formal vote. Please stay with us while the vote takes place. We have a result. IFLA statutes state that a proposal for amendment of the statutes shall be considered to be carried if a 2/3 majority of the votes cast are in favour of their adoption. The result is 1,515 in favour, 12 against and 58 abstentions. Therefore, more than 2/3 of the votes cast are in favour. The motion has been resolved in the affirmative. Congratulations and thank you. The next motion concerns the execution of the deed of amendment of the IFLA statutes. I invite the Secretary-General to present the resolution and rationale.
I will do, but before, allow me please to congratulate you, Madam President, and the IFLA Governing Board to this outstanding result. More than 95% of IFLA members voted in favor of the adoption of the new statutes. This shows how much the proposed ideas for change are welcomed and supported by our members. It's a fantastic and a strong mandate for the governing board and for IFLA headquarters to continue this journey and to start the work on the implementation now, after the General Assembly. And now I will present the resolution and rationale with pleasure. The General Assembly is asked to vote on the following motion: to authorize each member of IFLA's governing board, as well as each civil notary, assigned civil law notary, deputy civil law notary, and notarial assistant employed by the aforementioned Bells, Reichen, and Trogleva, Fortune, NV, each individually to execute the deed of amendment of the IFLA statutes in accordance with the aforementioned draft of this deed. Rationale. Members, in order to formally adopt the statutes, the deed of amendment of the statutes must be lodged legally with the Dutch Chamber of Commerce and Commercial Register. This motion authorizes each member of IFLA's governing board and IFLA's legal advisors to lodge the documents. As noted earlier by our chair, the lodging of the documents and the entry into force of the new statutes will be delayed until the day after the General Assembly in August 2021.
I call for a mover and seconder for the motion. The motion as presented is moved by Jamie McCowan and seconded by Michael Orlick. Does any member present wish to speak to the motion? If not, we will now move to a formal vote. Please stay with us while the vote takes place. IFLA's statutes state that a proposal for amendment of the statutes shall be considered to be carried if a 2/3 majority of the votes cast are in favour of their adoption. The result is 1,548 in favour, none against, and 37 abstentions. Therefore, more than 2/3 of the votes cast are in favour. The motion has been resolved in the affirmative. Thank you. To all our members, wherever you are in the world, I would like to thank you for your engagement and contributions to this process. The journey has required the thoughts and ideas of many as we developed a new governance model for IFLA, one that will be more inclusive and offer greater opportunities for participation. IFLA's vision is for a strong and united library field, powering literate, informed and participative societies. We cannot do the work alone and need to work together as librarians, as professionals in our regions and internationally. That brings us to the close of our assembly. I thank you again for your involvement in this extraordinary General Assembly. Our great appreciation goes to Caval Limited for hosting us and providing the meeting venue and organisation, and to our CEO, Jamie McCowan, for acting as the teller and assisting. And I pass on the best wishes to the Governing Board, who have taken on this task of the governance review wholeheartedly and completed an enormous achievement during their 2-year term. I believe the new structure brings exciting opportunities for IFLA to extend its reach and for our profession to participate boldly in leading the change we wish to see. IFLA has a bright future. Let's work together. We are IFLA. I now formally close the IFLA Extraordinary General Assembly, February 2021.